Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Now, I don't think it's a secret that I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I've been following Star Trek since I think I was 5 years old. That's when I saw it on the TV for the first time. Now, Star Trek was so successful back in the day that, of course, eventually there would have been a movie. And there was, Star Trek: A Motion Picture. However, a lot of fans didn't quite like it, mostly because it's a very drawn-out movie. Now, don't get me wrong, it has good things about it. The special effects are amazing. They're among the best I've seen of that era. Unfortunately, it's overloaded with special effects. And the story just takes a very long and unnecessary time to really get started. Now, when the second movie came out, things were a lot different. The Wrath of Khan basically does everything right the first movie did wrong. It does have an interesting plot, of course. It also has some amazing special effects. However, it also managed to keep the viewer interested. Because the amount of action in this one is pretty good, as well as increased drama, and overall also a better actor performance in my opinion. So what's background of this movie? The Wrath of Khan is based on a TV episode of the original series. It's a movie about the original crew, so I thought it's pretty good that they actually pick up an original episode and make a movie for it. Now, the episode I'm referring to is Space Seed. There's not a whole lot you have to know about it. Basically, Kirk finds this ship drifting in space. It's an old Earth starship that had its crew suspended in stasis sleep. And basically, he wakes them up, and their leader, Khan, turns out to be a former dictator that in the end tries to take control of his ship. This doesn't work. He gets exiled by Kirk on a planet. That's basically the plot of the first episode that was about Khan. Now, we didn't hear from Khan again until this movie. Obviously, because he's in the title. Okay, so what happens here? Basically, what happens is the Federation is trying to conduct an experiment. The Project Genesis. It's a very ambitious project. Basically, what it's supposed to do, you use it on a planet, and a dead one that has no atmosphere, nothing, and it would turn the planet into a fully living planet that can sustain life. It is an amazing idea. While it is a little far-fetched, even for Star Trek standards, I still think it was a very, very cool thing, and I love to see the animations that showed how those planets come to be. But it never really happens in this movie all the way till the end. But anyway, Khan is still on his planet, and a Federation away team accidentally beams down to the planet they exile him on. How does this happen? Well, one of the planets of that system exploded and shifted the orbits of the planets. So Khan's planet is now where another planet would have been, so they accidentally land on that. Granted, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's the only major flaw I see in this movie, but I'm ignoring it. So anyway, they find Khan. He finds a way to take control of people's minds. He takes control of the ship they had, the USS Reliant, and is after Kirk. Kirk himself has to deal with the fact that he's getting older. In between movies, or was it? I just know that he's an admiral by now. Anyway, the point is, he's an admiral, he's getting older, and he is now responsible for training some of Starfleet's cadets on a training mission. So, the movie focuses a lot on different themes. One of the themes is getting older. The fact that Kirk is not as young anymore, that he is now taking care of a younger generation that one day will replace him. It's about revenge, since Khan, now in control of a starship, is after Kirk and will do anything he can in order to kill him. And another thing, of course, is this whole life from death theme with the Genesis projectile. So yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna give away the ending. I just know that you know how in many of the original series episodes, it was always red shirts dying over and over and over again. It's like they had an away team with two main characters and a red shirt. Take a guess who's gonna die. Anyway, in this movie they actually kill a main character. I know that pretty much all of the Star Trek fans watching would probably know what I'm talking about. But for those that don't know it, I'm not gonna spoiler it. I just know you wouldn't expect it. Anyway, so what else can be said about this movie? The special effects, definitely are very good.
They still haven't raised their shields.
Raise ours.
Their shields are going up.
Lock phasers on target.
Locking phasers on target.
They're locking phasers.
Raise shields.
Fire!
Zero, get those shields up. Trying, sir.
Visual. Zulu, divert all power to phasers.
Too late.
Hang on!
I don't see a whole lot of CGI in this one. I miss these days, I really do, when because to me the battles in Star Trek, especially in the movies, always looked amazing because they used actual models for the ships. They looked so realistic. This is so much better than the CGI blast fast that we get these days. I really miss those times. Anyway, while there are space battles, they're not that dominant. I think there's like two major battle scenes, and that's pretty much it. But that's not the main point of the movie. But let me tell you, those battle scenes are pretty well done. Also, I would like to point out that the soundtrack for this movie, composed by James Horner, one of my favorite composers of all time, is just awesome. I love his music for this one. While he hasn't always done the best soundtracks, I think Commando's soundtrack is like, I don't know what went wrong there, but in this one, it just works. I like this movie's soundtrack a lot. So yeah, that's basically the Wrath of Khan in a nutshell. Oh yeah, one more thing. We already know that the Enterprise was severely refitted for the first movie, not just in the Star Trek universe itself, but also the model was like really modernized, but not too much. You can still tell it's the same ship. It just looks a lot different. I really like this design. I can't praise it enough. It's my favorite Star Trek design ever. But the USS Reliant is a ship type that we haven't seen before. This ship is of the Miranda class, which would end up being one of probably the most common seen Federation ship for the rest of Star Trek's time. This model was used countless of times sometimes in the movies themselves, in the Next Generation, even though not as much. You see it like what feels like hundreds of times on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and it's just everywhere. But I really like this ship's design. And I think it makes a nice contrast to the very distinctive design of the Enterprise. The Reliant actually looks like quite an aggressive ship, don't you think? It does to me, but that's why I like it, because it is so out of the ordinary for the Federation to have a ship that looks like this. I really like it. The models for these ships were also pretty cool, but you can tell that from looking at them in the movie. So that's it. How do the actors hold up? Well, we have the entire cast from the original series here. At least, I think so. You have William Shatner as Admiral James T. Kirk, Leonard Nimoy as Spock, DeForest Kelley as McCoy, James Doohan as Scotty, Walter Koenig as Mr. Chekhov, George Takei as Mr. Sulu, and of course Nichelle Nichols as Commander Uhura. Now, one of the two members of the additional cast need to be mentioned here that stand out. Of course, there is Ricardo Montalban, who plays Khan. He played Khan in the original series as well, which is cool that they brought him back, and damn, he does a good job. If you don't believe that this guy's mad, I don't know who you're gonna believe then. And of course, there's Kirstie Alley, who plays Lieutenant Savick, one of the new supporting cast for this movie, who is also gonna make appearances after this. So yeah, that is basically it. If you want to check out this movie, I highly recommend it. If you ever thought about getting started with Star Trek, which I really can recommend that if you're into science fiction, you won't find anything better. That is how it is in my opinion. Because of the diversity that Star Trek has with its plots, and sure, it can be silly sometimes, but really, the majority of the episodes are very watchable, and the movies are awesome too. So if you want to get started with Star Trek, but don't want to feel like you have been missing out on something for too long, get started with this one, because it doesn't require too much knowledge. I guess if you can, watch the episode Space Seed first, but again, that's not a must. You can watch this movie without having any idea about what Star Trek is about. Trust me. The movies were made for a wider audience, not just for Star Trek fans, and that shows. So, what's the verdict? Well, The Wrath of Khan happened to be my favorite Star Trek movie, and I shall rate it a 10 out of 10. There's no way around it. My favorite Star Trek movie. Go and check it out.